Hi everyone, Kristen from Soul Therapy here. I actually have a few minutes before my next client, and I decided to talk to you guys a little bit about the birth chart and astrology for some of you that don't know anything about that. Me, as a child, maybe 10, 11 years old, I started really getting into astrology and crystals and just playing around with a lot of different weird occultist type things, tarot cards and stuff. What I noticed was that the birth chart, which, if for those of you who don't know, is if you were to take a picture of the sky above you the moment that you take your first breath, that is what your birth chart is. And it's similar to a map of the sky, but what it actually is a map of your life's plan. The premise being that before you incarnated in your soul, came into your body, it kind of sits down with a committee and creates what's called the soul's plan. And, you say, well, I want to work on this, I want to work on that, I want to grow in these kinds of ways. Because just like as humans here in the third dimensional earth plane, we want to grow and we want to develop and we want to transform throughout our lifetime. Our soul also wants to grow and evolve and become, more elevated, more grown, more expanded in its nature. So with this desire in hand and this ambition in hand, the soul chooses to incarnate into different experiences. You basically, if you want to know, if you want to grow, or you want to learn something that you can only conceptually understand from spirit perspective, then you want to incarnate into a vehicle or a body that is capable of having the experiences that you wish to learn from. So if I live in heaven and everything is love, that's the only energy that exists where I live. And in this incarnation, I want to learn the opposite of what I am in order to understand fully what I am. So, for example, here on Earth, or in the third dimension, we have duality. That's something that we wouldn't even understand the concept of not being able to have. In order to have darkness, you have to have light. Otherwise, it wouldn't be darkness. It'd just be what it is, right? There's nothing to compare it to. In order to have up, you have to have down. How can you go up if there's no down? In order to have right, you have to have wrong, or right, left, whatever, right? We need that duality in order to understand the other thing. But in this source place that our spirit is born, there is no duality. It just is. And so we come and try to experience other things through incarnation. You do this when you want to do it, as many times as you want to do it, and you construct the setting, you construct the people, you construct the experiences, and you do this all within mind of a lesson or lessons that you would like to learn. And you go through this like committee of people, souls who have already incarnated and are done with all their incarnations, have moved past the cycle up into the next phase of their growth journey, which would be counselors, elders, people who have been where you are. They've tried everything. They've transmuted everything. They've learned all their lessons, and they are now moved on to another area of learning. And so they're able to guide you, kind of like high school guidance counselors. You go to them, you say, okay, I want to learn this thing. And they go over everything that you've been, all your prerequisites, everything you've already done, and said, okay, well, this, you're going to need to take this now, or you're going to need to take that now. And no, I don't think you should take that because that's going to be really challenging for you. You don't have the right background or experience for that. And this is kind of like the experience but you can say, no, I want to do that. I don't care how hard it is. Give me the whole load. I'll take the prerequisites, I'll take the co-requisites, I'll take everything. Just give it all to me. It's very ambitious kind of soul. Or you could be like, you know what, I had a really hard lifetime last time. I just want to go enjoy myself and have a nice break and have a good life. So that's what I want to do. And we'll set that all up and everybody agrees, okay, I'm going to play this role. And, this soul family person says, I'm going to play this role. And that's your soul family. And you can put a calling out to say, I in this lifetime, I want to learn self-love. And so I need parents who are, maybe one is abusive and one is, rejects me. So I come into the lifetime of not really loving myself because I didn't experience being taught how to love myself, right? I was taught that I was not very valuable to the people that were supposed to love me. So it becomes this journey throughout the lifetime of learning how to self love. And that can be a very painful journey before you finally get to the realization that in order to feel love, it has to come from myself. Because the idea is that everything that you ever need in life, you can find within your soul. It already always has it. You were just forgot that who you were and where you came from. So some people are like, well, how do I know what my life purpose is? Like, why am I here? Or, am I going to have children? Or am I ever going to get married? What's my career? What is the best career for me? Well, you can look at the moment, the picture of the sky at the moment you took your first breath, and that will tell a story. It's like a map of this lifetime. And you can look at your south node. It's a part of the map that talks about where you've come from as far as what your last incarnation was all about, and what incarnations influenced this life the most. But mainly we run through the chart, and I'm actually going to put a picture of it up. um, we run through the chart. It has 12 houses or 12 areas of life. And it's kind of like divided into a pie if you're using a Western chart. So there are different charts depending on what kind of astrology that you're looking at. Different cultures or different eras of humanity have different charts. But basically, it goes off of the energy of the planets in your solar system, right? So that includes the moon and the sun as planets or stars. So they have their own characteristics, their own energies, their own downfalls, how they interact with each other in the chart tells a huge story. And a lot of people that don't know anything about astrology think it's ridiculous and it's woo woo. But I will tell you that reading an astrological chart for someone, they are floored by how much someone who doesn't know them knows everything about them. And not only that, there are so many answers in the chart. Like I was saying, answers to questions like what is the best career for me? But it even goes deeper. It tells about how you are on a I don't want to say subconscious, but you're hidden, what the world doesn't really see about you. We have this like private, personal um, personality that is very, very personal. Maybe, your husband might see that, or your wife, or your children, or your parents sometimes. But for the most part, there is an aspect of our personality that's very hidden and very personal, and that shows up there too. It shows how you nurture. It shows where, like, let's say you're having issues in life. It shows where you can find comfort, where you can find your most efficient or even effective way of handling challenges. Like for example, some people might have a challenge in like self value, right? Like your second house or your first house, and you might have some challenges in there, like some aspects. And that's another thing, like we see what your challenges are by these things called aspects, and it can create, we can see where this challenge is coming through in your life and what area of life it's in by whatever house it's in. And we can say, oh well, you're having a challenge maybe with fertility, or maybe you're having a challenge finding the right career for yourself, or maybe you're having a challenge with your children or in work or with your family members, right? Well, we can see not what would make that challenge go away, because the only thing that makes a challenge go away is to go through it, find out the lesson about it, transmute it, and then it's done, it's gone. You don't even never need to see it again. And we can see what that is in your chart. But it will tell us how you can best get through it without so much pain. So, for example, I could say, well, it shows here that you have, your Jupiter in Libra. You'd say, well, the best way for you to get through this challenge is to really be open and fair and equal and balanced in your thoughts. And then we direct you toward that. And you're like, you know what, you're right. Whenever I sit and I'm like, okay, weigh out the pros and cons, all of a sudden I feel better. So that would be like your resolve. Maybe somebody has a great aspect in their fifth house, creativity. So we would say, your moon is in your fifth house of Libra. So maybe you want to express yourself when you get upset. You want to express yourself through creativity. Maybe start drawing something like, yeah, every time I like write a song, or every time I, make music, or every time I paint, I actually feel better. And that's where you can get your restoration from, so you can continue on through your challenge feeling restored and feeling full and ready for the challenge. Right? In my practice, I do astrology readings a little bit differently than I've ever experienced. And I'm not saying there aren't other people who do this. I just don't know if they do, because I never experienced it. But I actually create my sessions, where every session we go through one or two houses, or one or two planets, or one or two aspects, depending on what your issue is that you're coming for and you want to know about. We're going to like zoom into that part of your chart and open it up, because we could literally talk about one planet in one house with all its aspects and all its rulers and all this other stuff, one, for 3 hours. We would see, where your challenges are, where you are the most happy. Who are you being when you're the most happy? What your challenges are with your goals in life. For example, I'm an Aquarius. My challenge in this life has to do with personal relationships with other people, and really understanding those better. And I can really explode that and bring that up by what other planets are in Aquarius, what planets are opposing, what planets are squaring, what planets are trining, what is the ruler of Aquarius. So we can get so much information that's like, oh, that's why my life sucked like that. And that's why it's better now. And it really puts some things into perspective and lets you know, either one, am I on the right track, which most people are, or two, how do I get on the right track, or three, if I am on the right track, but I'm doing it in such an inefficient way that it's draining my energy, how can I do this better so that I'm learning my lessons just like I am, but not so harshly, not so with so much pain. So we really go into that. And when we discuss it, we bounce it off each other of ways, tools that you can use, projects that you can do, really improve the quality of your life. So if you're interested in having a session with me like that, or even just for hypnotherapy, which, my specialty is I work with the subconscious mind through hypnosis and other subconscious techniques to reprogram your mind to be the person that you want to be, to attract the things that you want to attract into your life. So if you want to do that, you can either email me at Kristen@soultherapytct.com, or you can visit my website at www.soultherapytct.com. And you can click on the free consult and schedule yourself for a free consultation. We'll talk for about 15 to 30 minutes about what's going on in your life. I'll tell you what I think you should do about it. For example, should you do hypnosis? Should you have soul therapy? Should you do your chart reading? These kind of things. You tell me, yes, I like that. No, I don't like that. What I would prefer is this, because I do have QHHT sessions, past life regressions, and future life progressions, all kinds of stuff. So you can see that at the website. Schedule your free consultation. We'll talk about it, and then we'll decide if you want to move forward, what would that look like? Again, that's Kristen@soultherapytct.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.